let me forget, blue tape. We'll do it a little bit later today because I want to make sure everything warms up, dries off, and make sure the tape sticks. And we'll get to that. The big column bases that are on the outside of the footprint. Now these are different than the ones inside the footprint of the house because those are purely a pad. A post sits on top, a little metal clip holds that post from moving around on top of that pad, and that's about it. But these out here are actually independently holding up different aspects of the roof. Like that one right there, that's the main roof of the house that's holding up. And these two right here are going to be holding up a shed roof that is coming off this west side of the building. So because these are going to be tied into the posts that support these roof lines, these have to have extra rebar, vertical rebar, similar to what I have in the footing, but these are going to require rebar in a bundle, like 4 at a time, coming up in a column. So I got to construct that column of rebar today, make sure that gets tied in there. And then I think we're ready for inspections. The inspector can only come on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and today is Monday. I don't know how far I'm going to get. You have to call 24 hours in advance. So we'll see if we can possibly get that inspector here tomorrow, but I don't know for sure. One thing critical about these bases is I have to make sure I have the elevation, the finished product. I have to make sure it's just right. Obviously, I want that concrete pillar sticking out of the ground, the finished ground, but I don't want it too high that it's sticking above the deck. Does that make sense? So let's start with this one. This one is going to be the post that's holding up the roof line that is just outside of the master. You know, I was thinking this morning at 3:30 while I was laying in bed, I was thinking about rebar and how boring and unappreciated rebar is. Yes, it's not very exciting. It ranks up there with sanding probably, but it's important. And if you think about it, it's really the first step in construction. All of this stuff that you see goes away, except for the rebar. That rebar is the first ingredient in this house. So it's kind of important. But it's kind of fun knowing that you're actually building something once you're applying that rebar. So let's keep building and work on these column bases. Okay, this rebar is going to be coming out of this middle square right here. So I'm going to kind of capture that relatively close. Doesn't have to be perfect at this point. Just enough to keep this rebar tower up. The plans call for these support bars, these horizontal support bars that wrap around this every 9 inches. We need 4 of them. And we can use the number 3 rebar for that, the 3A stuff. That's easy. So we need 4 layers of those crossbars times 4, 1 on each side, 16 just for this one. So I'm going to cut a plethora of these. We're going to need them. Now for these crossbars. Finally got these things sticking upright. I tell you, with one person, it's not the easiest thing in the world, but that's what I signed up for, right? Okay, let's put these on. These little crossbars are 7 inches long. I went and double checked in my sonotubes, make sure that would fit without touching the sides. So there's about an inch or two of clearance right now, so that'll be fine. Well, does that look right? I think that'll work just fine. One down, 5 to go. Man, like everything else in construction, the more you do it, the faster you get. That one took about twice as fast as the first one. Oh, don't mind that smoke over there you see in the distance. They're logging over in the national forest and they're burning up little burn piles. They're all over the place. So they spent a lot of time clearing up that area over there, logging, clearing the underbrush. So that's a good thing. But if it gets out of control and you see it coming this way, just yell. I plan on reusing these forms. These are 2x8s. These are going to be good rafters. After this house is done in, 3.5 to 4.5 years, I'll probably go back to building cabins. And I can use these 2x8s. They're perfect for rafters on like a 12x16 size cabin. Perfect. So because I'm going to reuse them, right there, those screws right there, obviously that's going to be embedded in concrete and that's going to be a bear to even find them. So I'm just going to take blue tape, cover them up on all my inside corners where I have exposed screws. I think it's got to help. These are going to be those square posts, those plinths, P-L-I-N-T-H. And these square columns, the concrete portion of it, is going to stand above this concrete floor. So I want to make sure I get that. So if you're standing up here, at least 2 feet, I would say, of a concrete base that you see sticking out. I think that would be good. And on top of that, we're going to have an 8-inch rough sawn Doug fir post, and that I'll actually mill up this fall here. This is more of a matter of style than anything else. I'd say between 55 and 60. Which one do you want? Let's go with 57. Perfect. 57 inches it is. Let's cut some rebar. Okay, I'm running out of light. There's 56 ties in that one column alone. That's a lot of tying. I ran out of crossbars, so I gotta go cut some more crossbars. My friends are over there, they say hi. Today we're working on those step-down boxes. That's what we need to make that 24-inch difference in elevation, to make that transition. And inside those boxes, those forms that go from one height to the other, I need to put rebar in the shape of a Z. So that's what I'm doing right now. Start off with an elbow. Now, obviously, if I just do this, it's going to make a square or a U. I don't want that. I need to bend it like this, but this is going to have to be in the ground or hanging over an edge somewhere. Okay, so here's what's going on. We have 24 inches right now from the top of this form to the top of this form. That's our step down. That's exactly what we want. But I don't know if this is necessarily in plane where it's supposed to be in relation to everything else, because we still haven't hit the laser to all of this. So I'm going to basically build this and only put one screw connecting the two. That way, when it's all almost done, we can take that screw out and move them independently when we're leveling everything up. So right now I got to cut this tail off to right here, and then we'll put a 2x8 on the outside and connect those two, top and bottom. And then once I make that connection, or at least put the board there for that connection, then I'll take 2x8s or 2x6s or whatever I have laying around and face the front of this and stack it all the way up and down. Then once I do that, I can put my rebar into place. And that's apparently really what the inspector is looking for, is to make sure the rebar is all there. So let's start with cutting this. Yeah, I worked up a sweat already bending rebar. I suggest if you want to warm up quickly in the mornings, just go bend some rebar. Cut to a 30 inches, and eventually several at 19. That's easy for me to say. So I want to make sure the face of this is going to be plumb, because the concrete behind it will abut the stem wall that'll be coming from this side. Does that make sense? That'll work good. I'll be able to tighten that up. So I'm going to leave that independent. I can still face this without connecting this final board down here. Okay, right now, this is plumb. These are plumb. The top of these are level. These are level, and it's exactly 24 inches from the top of this form to the top of this form. So that's what we want. That's what we want our finished product to look like. Now we do want to make sure our width on the bottom is where we need to be. So we'll use our little spreader board here. Good. Okay, before I go crazy on this, I'm gonna set my rebar into place. Now that I know where it's gonna go, I'll put a spreader board on top of this, and then I'll put an upright right in the middle of this, going all the way down. I already have my elbows for my corners down here. So that's finished. Okay, I have all my verticals up. The last thing I want to do before I cover this, and while I can still reach in there, is put some horizontal rebars in to tie this stem wall into this stem wall. So I'm going to drill a couple holes in here, but I want to be able to get these boards out without destructing it too bad, just because I don't want to damage anything. So I'm going to drill the hole right in between the middle of these boards. I have an old beat up bit. My goodness, this thing is not for fine carpentry. Check that out. Can you see how bad that is? It's nasty. Perfect for this. Okay, let's just drill a hole somewhere in the middle. Make sure I'm in the stem wall. Doesn't have to be exact. That looks good. That's a 1/2 inch bit, as opposed to my tops here where they're 5/8, just because I wanted to be able to get them in there easy. On these, I don't want the concrete to go spilling out the hole, so I drilled these at a 1/2 inch. Okay, that looks good. Let's put another board on there. Now I need to fill in this gap a little bit without making too much mess inside. I don't want a lot more dirt piling up in there. I'm gonna cut a point on this thing. Does that look right? Let's make it work. Okay, I hit that rock. I'm gonna call that good. I'm gonna screw that in there. And take my leftover and jam it up on top. That's it. Aside from connecting the top to the bottom, this is completely finished up. All the rebar's in, all the ties. What do you think? Here, I'll give you a closer look. we just have to build 2 more. And you thought this was easy? Wasn't that you that said this was all going to be easy? I think that was you. What were you thinking? Let's make an angle cut on a couple 2x8s right here. That looks about like a 45. Yeah, I'd say. Okay, so that'll be easy. So on the long end, let's say we need, so 15 to the top of the board, 24. Looks like the other side is about the same. Let's just do 2 each of those.
going until you hear that steady. So, right there, Devin. Okay. Sunk.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that one, it was just holding a string up. Sorry, I should have.
Oh, I see.
I do have a few 2-footers over there. You need a 2-footer over here?
Yeah. Take one right here. You still gotta know how to set. My first one was a used DeWalt. Yeah.
Pretty sure it was my old one.
Yes, sir.
You got a hand?
There you go. Oh, down. Send it, Devin. So if you hear the steady beep, just go for it. Yep. Up about an inch, 3/4 maybe. Oop. Screw it, Devin. Give it one gentle tap down.
Yeah, I think make it at the same level, because just to make it easier down the road.
Yep. Yep. Stabila has a transit. I don't know if you've seen them. They're like $2,000. They're so nice.
I have like the 1800 or 2800 or
Yeah.
yeah.
But it's got a really long range. So I mean, you could set it like way over there and just leave the stand set up
Nice.
at the same level for a while, a week or two if you needed, you know.
Nice.
And then the thing on it doesn't beep at you all annoying. You can quiet it down, and it's got a way bigger readout. And it just shows a down arrow, and it says you can set it to metric or imperial, and it'll just show 1/8. You can set it to 16ths, 30-seconds, 1/8 if you want, so you can kind of change the sensitivity depending on if you're
That's
just
smart.
doing rough grade or if you're doing.
Yeah. If I was building more than one of these, I'd probably invest in something like that.
This one's built like it's put in a lot of foundations, and they've always been right.
Nice.
So I trust it. Are you gonna want our help for a day?
I was just going to ask you that.
I figured. I don't know how you do it all by yourself.
Yeah, no, it would be almost impossible. I figured I would need 1 or 2 guys at least, I think. So, I mean, I'd love it.
All of us, the 4 of us, would be great.
Okay, that would be awesome.
Or are you gonna pump this too? I don't know how. It's doable, but with the elevation changes.
Well, it would be tough. I mean, you'd literally have to shovel it in, right? Or bucket it in?
Wheelbarrows and buckets and
Yeah.
shovels, the whole 9. The pump's well worth it. You're here in an hour with a pump, and nobody's gonna be exhausted.
I think the same thing.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, they had an opening Monday, but I'm assuming you don't.
Oh. Right there.
a lot has happened since the last time you saw me, and a couple days have gone by. So 3 days ago I started this episode and worked on these step downs. So I finished those step downs up the day before yesterday. I think there was only one more to do, and so I did that without filming it because I was just running out of time and I had to get these things finished up. Also, the day before yesterday in the evening, you saw when Tucker and the group from Blue Sky were out here leveling these forms. And yesterday, the inspector came out. Flying colors. I'm happy about that. So we're ready to pour concrete. But before we pour concrete, you saw what I was doing right now. I'm pushing up a little dirt around the bottom of these forms. Some of these forms had to be lifted up. Oh, I think right here, in fact, was the worst. It was lifted up about 2.5 inches-ish. So I just took some dirt. I dumped a pile here earlier yesterday, and then I dumped a pile there yesterday with the bucket, with the loader, and just spread out a bunch of dirt on the outside. Well, not only on the outside, but also some on the inside of the forms too, because I really don't need concrete 12 inches thick right there. And I don't want it that thick either. I don't want to pay for it because as it is, you might find this interesting. I did the math and tried to figure out to the nearest cubic inch how much concrete we're going to need here. And I came out with 9.89 yards. Go figure. Trucks only like to carry 10.5, really at the most. They don't like to do more than that. Depending on the truck, I mean, you can probably find bigger trucks that'll carry more concrete. But where I'm getting it from, right across the border in Canada, they don't like anything more than 10 yards. So I'm getting as much as I possibly can delivered on Monday. So that is scheduled. So the next episode, we're going to be pouring concrete. That's exciting. So this dirt that I'm putting inside of the forms is pretty fluffy right now. And if it doesn't rain tonight, it's actually supposed to rain like 3 nights between now and the time the concrete gets here. But if it doesn't for some reason, I'm going to make sure that that is watered down well and compacted and settled. Good morning. It is 7 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, and I am on my way to help Tucker. We're gonna go head up into the mountains and work on a project he's working on. I don't know if I'll get any video of this particular task or not. If I do, I do. If I don't, I'll catch up with you soon.